I've traveled to over a dozen countries, and today I'm going to talk about money. So while traveling through different countries, I've learned that different countries view money a little bit differently, and then also things are charged differently, or like you pay for different things. Some were a pleasant surprise, some were a bit of like a shock. So I'm going to go through a few of the countries that I visited and sort of just explain how money worked in those countries. But let me just start off by saying how I usually travel. Usually before I leave, I go to my bank and I order currency. Now I know some travel people will say, "Oh no, this is the best way to get the best rate." And that's fine. But I just really like the security of having at least something in my pocket that I know is local currency, and I don't have to worry about exchange rates when I get there. So I'll go to my bank and get usually about $100 of US cash in the foreign currency because I feel like at least that's probably going to be enough that if I really needed to do something, it wouldn't be inhibitive to have to pay for it. All right, so let me talk in paper money. So cash is king in Vietnam, where I was last summer, and the value of the Vietnamese dong is very low. So your numbers are typically really, really high. I was ballparking when I went there. It was about like $20,000 or 20,000 VND to the US dollar. So that exchange rate was kind of hard for me to math in my head, but numbers are in the thousands and millions. But everything is cash. And I don't mean like most things. In my experience, it was like everything. And I didn't have enough cash on me, so I did have to go to a bank and exchange some US currency for Vietnamese currency, which was fine and fairly easy to do with a guide who helped us get there. But yes, almost nothing was charged on the card. Even things like hotels and bigger restaurants were still looking for cash. So Vietnam is cash pretty much primarily. So I spent about 2 weeks in Japan, and I had that one day in Korea that I referenced in a different video. The time I spent there, I did have paper money with me, and I would use it at smaller stalls and more like independent places. But cards worked at most things, including the vending machines and the Suica card, which is the kind of like a Metro card. And then Korea had a similar one. They tended to work in the vending machines. So it was kind of a combination of me using my own credit card and then the credit card I used to buy the Metro Pass, but that was kind of used as a general card for a lot of things. So like I said, currency does work, paper currency does work, but you can get away with card as well. And they do have specific machines that'll also take the Suica cards, or certain vendors will take the Suica cards sort of within that. So it's pretty open in there. You can have cash, but it is not going to be what you need to rely on 100%. In a video I'll put out later, I did spend a lot of time in New Zealand and Australia. I spent about 2 weeks driving in a van from Auckland to Wellington, solo travel, and then I flew to Australia, where I spent about a week. I think in the time I was there, I rarely used paper currency, and honestly, the currency from New Zealand is so beautiful, I wanted to hold on to it anyways. I did use some of it, but in the end, the card was pretty much the way to go. For me, the card is just very convenient, especially if I can use it to get things like cash back. And I do make sure I have credit cards that don't charge me exchange fees, and I'll have a video probably about credit cards at some point in the future, especially if I get a sponsorship. That would be cool. But that's not where I'm at now. So just credit card for the most part was totally okay in New Zealand and Australia. And I was booking a lot of excursions online, and the card was just through that. So I didn't actually pay cash. Having gone through Scotland, France, and England, the money there was okay to use card for. The euro is good in most of Europe, but I still try to pay card for as much as I can. At least that was my experience, and that was a few years ago, so I'm not sure how things may have changed since, but I did carry some euros with me, but I do try to use the card pretty much primarily just so that I have that cash for emergencies. So finishing this kind of overview of a few different countries and how my experience was with money, Iceland was oddly enough only card. I never even saw the currency for Iceland. Iceland was a weird trip for me. I actually planned the trip to Iceland with not enough time to get the cash, and I brought US currency with me with the idea that I could exchange it when I got there, which this is kind of earlier when I was traveling. And that was a solo trip for me. So I just brought American currency, but in the end, I never even saw once in Iceland whatever the local currency was. I never paid for anything with it. I never saw it around. It was just card, 100% card. And everything worked out great. So that was Iceland. I know foreign currency can be kind of a stressor for people when they travel, but I try to generally just use my card and, like I said, carry the cash that I need. How much that is needed, do your own research, but that was just my experience in the places that I've been and a quick overview of some of them. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. As always, I wish you the best in your journey to set goals, embrace random, and live your adventure.